This is Serena and Venus Williams, two of the most famous women tennis players of all time. Despite winning more than 20 Grand Slam titles each, they didn't have as glorious of a childhood or background. Growing up in Compton, California, one of the most dangerous and economically depressed cities in the U.S., they practiced tennis on courts with weeds everywhere. They used balls that their dad had found around the courts and couldn't afford proper training. Even though the Williams sisters eventually became world-known tennis players, it rarely ever happens. Had they grown up with more access to tennis, the path to success would have been much more easy. And there would be more girls and boys like the Williams sisters. Everyone should have access to tennis, not just people from middle and upper income classes. Hello, my name is Ethan, and I hope that we can make more tennis more accessible to everyone around the world so that they can pursue their dreams with much more ease. We can do this by starting nonprofit organizations aimed to help young kids achieve their dreams. Just because a community is a lower income class doesn't mean their inhabitants cannot chase their tennis dream. People need courts, proper equipment, and training to make a tennis dream come true. Unlike some other sports like soccer and basketball, tennis needs to be played on a court. It also requires proper equipment like rackets and balls. And then there's a training part, which would be lessons and fitness. Many people around the world don't have access to these resources. They don't have the courts to practice on, equipment to practice with, or the resources to afford lessons. For example, Avery Shackelford was an elementary school PE teacher and the founder of My Tennis Lessons. From her experience as a teacher, she says, "In my elementary school PE classes, I recall shooting hoops, kicking soccer balls, and throwing footballs, but never did we play tennis. Of course, there's a practical reason why tennis wasn't introduced in my PE class. Most public elementary schools don't have their own courts. So, what is causing the difficulty in accessing courts, equipment, and training? One of the key answers is income inequality. In this map of the U.S., we can see how many of the top 100 ranked girl tennis players under 12 live in each state. The more tennis resources in a state, the more likely there are top tennis players. For instance, California and Florida have the most of the top 100 players compared to other states. This is a map of Northern Virginia where I live. As you can see, there are many tennis courts clustered near the southwestern part of Northern Virginia. This is probably due to the fact that people there have a higher income and are able to afford more tennis courts. Another factor to consider is the prices of tennis equipment and lessons. Rackets can cost from $50 to $300, depending on your level and the frequency in which you play. Adding to that, you would also have to restring the racket and change the grip a number of times each year. Let's not forget tennis balls. An average tennis ball cost can vary from anywhere between $1 to $2. All of these expenses are recurring costs and can quickly add up. Tennis lessons are even more costly. A 1-hour private tennis lesson costs $60 on average, while the federal minimum wage in the U.S. is only $15. For instance, my tennis lessons cost $100 for an hour. Imagine taking weekly lessons since the age of 6. The total lesson cost would be $62,400. That's even more than the price of most cars. Now we can see why tennis may be out of reach for most kids and adults around the world. Is there anything we can do to change the situation? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. If you are a fan of tennis but can't afford the proper resources or equipment, there are organizations that can help you with that. Like I said, My Tennis Lessons is one of them. The price of a tennis lesson from My Tennis Lessons is ranging from $45 to $70. That's relatively cheap compared to other organizations. Another organization is the National Tennis Association, a nonprofit organization that focuses on helping kids in underserved communities learn about tennis. NTA creates dreams for these kids by exposing them to tennis, a sport that they have never heard about. Apart from organizations, more advanced junior players could also volunteer by helping other beginner tennis players and serve as coaches if they can't afford adult or grown-up coaches. All the factors that I have talked about, such as income inequality and the price of lessons and equipment, lead to the reality that not all are able to afford tennis. However, these are things we and organizations can do about this. If we can make tennis more accessible, perhaps more stars like Serena and Venus Williams will emerge from all states and backgrounds, no matter where they come from. Thank you.